So I don't have anything to toast with here, but cheers from Sydney. I'll toast you with my phone charger. Oh, it tastes great. Lithium in my mouth. I've always wanted that. So so anyway, we're recording now. So you can I'll pass the baton to you if you have something you want to say about your images that you wanted to chat about, and what can you teach me about composition? That would be interesting, like a nice deep dive into your words of wisdom.
It'll be from this past week where I went down to Caddo Lake on the Texas and Louisiana border here in the US. Yeah, there we go.
Okay. Fantastic. So so tell us a bit about the location first, for our listeners around the world who know that this is somewhere between Louisiana and Texas. Is that correct?
Yeah, that is correct here.
Yeah.
So Louisiana is just basically a swamp, almost the entire state. I've driven across it before, and there's these huge raised highways that just go miles and miles over the swamp, and they it's really interesting down there. There's a lot of giant oak trees and cypress trees, and they have this Spanish moss that just hangs down and gives it this kind of eerie look. And if any of our viewers have ever seen that vampire series of Anne Rice, what is her Interview with a Vampire? They film a lot of it in Louisiana. So right on the Texas border of Texas and Louisiana is this little river that runs through, and there's some of that swamp there. And it's been known for a long time, but only recently has it become like this really popular area for photography. And I hadn't been before, and it just happened to be part of my travels. My route was 15 minutes off of this iconic location. So I was like, well, I might as well spend a couple days there. And so that's how I ended up being in that area. And then I knew a couple other photographers that were also there. So I just hooked up with them and spent the last 3-4 days photographing this area. And let me tell you, like, the whole way I'm driving from Nashville, Tennessee over to Texas, I'm going through 3 states. I'm seeing rivers, I'm seeing some cypress trees, and I'm seeing beautiful fall colors, but nothing prepared me for what I encountered in Caddo Lake. It is absolutely amazing. It's just cypress tree after cypress tree. They've probably been there for thousands of years. Moss everywhere. Like you could literally just take your camera and just hold down the shutter button and then get like 5 keepers out of that one sweep. So
and this is it only in Caddo Lake?
I'm sure there's some other areas outside of that and some other areas in Louisiana, but all of this, what I captured here, was in Caddo Lake.
How big is Caddo Lake?
You know, I don't know. It's actually pretty big. So it's a river that flows through, and it might be dammed up at one end. I'd have to look more into that, but it's pretty amazing. Can you see one of my images? I've been talking about them.
Yeah, beautiful one with the blue fog mist in the foreground, the dark trunks, and the sort of ruby red foliage that seem to be at the tail end of autumn, but still look quite vibrant. Yeah. Oh man.
Okay, excellent. Let me show more of what it looks like when you're not zoomed in. Okay, here we go. So this will give more of an example of what I saw out there. Oh, so here we're on a lake, we're in a boat. So we're moving in a boat, we're shooting in telephoto, the sun is setting. So in one direction, you have the sun hitting the trees like this and just lighting up that white Spanish moss with whatever color the sun is. So since it's sunset, it's giving that golden hour look to it. And then if you turned away from that into the shadows, it's super dark. So one of the challenges that I had was switching back and forth between exposure setting for really bright while you're moving in a boat, while you're on a telephoto lens. So you have to have a really fast shutter speed, which means very little light is coming in. So then you got to crank your ISO way up. So in this one, my ISO is 400, which is not too bad, but there was some cases I was at ISO 2000.
Fantastic. Did you do like auto exposure bracketing with continuous shutter?
I did not. I took individual shots, no continuous shutter, and then I shoot manual. So I was just spinning around my my shutter speed mostly to get what I needed. And then if I didn't have enough light, then I would switch to the ISO. And since the button is just on the back of the camera, I could just hit that button and then go up and adjust pretty quickly and on the fly.
So every time you go out in a boat or a canoe, I guess, is it two choices?
You could do either. If you want to really explore the lake, a boat is your best option. If you got really strong arms, because you know you're going to be paddling for miles, you're not going to see as much as you will with a boat. And then your shoulders, your arms get tired. You're holding up that camera. I would say that the best way to see this is in a boat.
And is this what did you call it? It's cypress tree with Spanish moss. Is that what you said?
Yeah, that's correct.
And is this moss hanging all year round?
It is. It's hanging all year around. It's really damp there. Let's see. Let me bring up another one. So here's another image. There's a lot of similar composition here. Since the water can be not very interesting and have a lot of lily pads and other kind of not attractive stuff in the water, I use what's called anchoring, where you just have a strip at the bottom of like the ground, or in this case, water. And that tells you, it tells the viewer's brain like what we're looking at. So you can see right here, just a little bit at the bottom is enough to tell our brain like what we're looking at. And this was at the sun had already set. We're now in the blue hour. And I was like, there's just not enough light to shoot. But for some reason, I picked up my camera and I zoomed in all the way across the other side of the lake, and I just started looking around. So in this one, I'm at ISO 2000 and 100, probably 250 focal length. Yeah. I'm on a crop sensor, so I don't really know what it is. It's it says here I'm at 170, but with that crop factor, it's a lot more than that. And so I saw this tree and I just love the shape of it. I loved how it came up and then it just branched out, and it was capturing all of the light from the sun, but everything behind it, and those other trees are probably only 5 feet behind it. And then the forest is so thick that it just goes into pitch black. So there's not, I can show the before and after. There's really not a lot of post-processing.
Are there any gators in there?
There are gators, yeah.
Oh, what? There are?
Yeah.
Oh, did you see any?
Unfortunately, I did not. I was really hoping to see a gator.
Yeah, it'd be fun to have that in the shot too.
That would be cool.
And what about bird life? I imagine it'd be crazy busy.
We saw a lot of birds. So since it's going into fall here in the United States, there's a lot of migratory birds. So we saw swarms of, what's that? It's a bird of prey, and they primarily fish, osprey. We saw a ton of osprey in groups. We saw some juvenile eagles. We saw some blue herrings and some egrets. And yeah, there was just tons and tons of birds around there.
And I'm just gonna move to that bench over there.
Sure.
Yeah.
I'm going to bring up another image while you're doing that and talk about that image. So one thing to do with this, it's a way to capture it, is the dynamic range is so high. Most of the time I try to cut out the sky or just leave the sky out totally. In this case, it worked really well. And I loved how this tree just sticks up above the horizon, the tree line, and it makes just for a very interesting image. But when you start applying composition, now this is the same tree, but without the sky, and it's a totally different look.
And how many hours at a time were you out there?
You know, you're working with the light that you have. So when the sun's above you, the light's too harsh. So in between where the light is hitting and then where the shadows are, the dynamic range is just like way too great. So we were going out during the golden hour to get that softer light, and then into the blue hour. So you can see here, you know, there's no harsh shadows. There's no shadows at all. There's no light coming in to blow out that section where the light is hitting. And so we were only out for like 2 hours at a time.
Wow. So yeah, you would probably get tired if you're holding a big heavy lens. You're on the boat. It's rocking. It's exciting, but it's also physically very, because you didn't bring a monopod or anything like that, did you?
No. You probably could have used a short monopod. You know, we're sitting down in a boat and you're kind of spinning from side to side. So maybe a monopod would be a little more difficult. But you know, when you take your elbows and you prop it against your body, you get some decent like support there. And so you know you're like shooting like this. And when I go vertical, this arm is my support and it's against my body. So I'm shooting like this a lot. Now, if I went like this and I'm not, you know, having this arm supported, then it's really not as sturdy as having my trigger finger here against my body.
Yeah. And are there any sections along the lake? I mean, I guess there's some little narrow sections anywhere along, or not really?
Yeah, there totally is. There's big wide open spaces. There's channels of the river, and that's what we took, this narrow channel out to the big lake. And then you have all these little offshoots of the swamp, and you can barely get like a little John boat. We call it John boat up in there. And some of those you probably couldn't even get a motorboat in. Because you know the prop hangs down. You could probably only get in there via a canoe.
Wow. Were there any people shooting along the banks of the river with a long lens? That way they could steady themselves more and, you know, maybe even use filters or?
No, there is one area you can. There's a little pond. Let me go to some of those shots. So from here on this pond, and I haven't edited any of these photos yet. I just took these this morning.
Fantastic. Wow.
So from here, there's a big pier that goes out. And from that pier, you can set up with your tripod. So here you can see some people in a boat.
That's interesting to show that in context with the size too.
Yeah, I didn't think about
the position of that, but yeah, because it's hard to understand the scale of it. Now that I see that boat, they're massive, some of those trees. Any idea on the age of them? How many years? Or
in the little state park building, the visitor center, they show one a section, and it's probably maybe about a meter, and it dates back to like 1886.
Wow.
Yeah.
So they're a good 100 feet tall, I imagine.
Here's a good pano.
When you were doing the panos, were you at like these 2 or 3 images?
This is probably maybe 4 images. I like to overlap pretty good so I can make sure that Lightroom can read it. A lot of times if you don't overlap enough, Lightroom is going to have a hard time sewing it together. You can see here there's a number of trees, and this is just a small section. It probably runs a football field. This,
What?
yeah.
Oh my gosh. You could spend weeks there.
You really could.
Wow. And how long were you there for this trip? 4 days, I think you said?
I was there for, 4 days, 3 nights.
Are you going to pass through again when you finish up at your parents' place for Thanksgiving, or are you going somewhere else?
No, I'm gonna, I have some other projects I need to work on, so I'm gonna lay low for a bit, get those projects knocked out, and then I'm not sure what I'm gonna be up to next.
Okay. And those are all around near where your parents live. You're near Austin, is that right? Near Austin, Texas?
Yeah, Austin, Texas. I'm pretty close to that. Yeah, there's nothing really here around the area I'm in now to shoot, which is unfortunate. There's this place, it's about 4.5 hours away. I can go to the coast, which is about 4.5 hours away. There's some bird photography out there. I like to do long exposure water photography, so I definitely want to get out there probably this winter and shoot some stuff. If I can find some boat wrecks, that would be pretty neat, or some dilapidated piers, that would be pretty awesome.
Nice. I
Yeah.
hear Elon Musk lives in Austin.
Yeah, he's gonna be supposedly moving out here, so we'll see.
Oh, he hasn't moved yet. Okay. So it must be
Yeah,
a very trendy place to live in the US, I guess.
Austin's pretty happening town. Yep.
Yeah. How
Yeah.
far away are you from Austin?
Austin's about 2 hours away.
2 hours away. Nice.
Yep.
It's fantastic. Yeah, show me, what are these? These were from this morning?
Yep. So here we have more of the cypress trees, and they're deciduous. So they're little pine needles. They churn colors in the fall, and then they drop off. And here they're a little past peak, but they're very maroon in the camera. Let's see. I've got, this is with no saturation, no vibrance boost. This is just almost straight out of camera.
Wow.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Well, did you have anything you wanted to look at, or any images you wanted to show today?
No, look, I think it'd be a better idea to focus on one location and one set of series photos. And I think it that way we can title it and people can find it much easier. Because they might be searching for that lake. They might be searching for tree photography. They might be searching for, I don't think people are going to be searching for learning about composition as such, but we can also keyword that accordingly. As mentioned yesterday in my blog post about texture, I felt that your photos, the biggest element that jumped out for me was that repetition of the lines of the trees, right? And but every tree had its own story, and but primarily texture within the tree was jumping out like dog's balls. And fluffy texture was the one I joked about, right? Where it's so soft and it's hanging. So imagine if it's windy, it's a bit of an issue because they're very light, aren't they, in weight?
Oh, super light. Yeah. Yeah.
Was it windy?
What's that?
Was it very windy or not?
No, we had no wind, so we had great conditions.
Wow, that's even better.
Let me show you some of the difficulty. Like, I'm showing you only the good images, so let me show you some of the bad images. Even that was so beautiful as we're going through and I'm trying to capture stuff. The dynamic range between where the sun is hitting the trees
Yeah.
and the shade of the swamp. It's just so high that like a lot of these images that I thought were like could be amazing just weren't that great at all. And even some of these, like look at that light coming in. Through my viewfinder, it looked amazing. But it's just too
So the range between the highlight and the shadow was too great.
and here I have shadows raised 100%.
Wow.
So not a whole lot you can do with it. Let me bring the highlights down. That's a little bit better. So a lot of what I first started out shooting, I'm like, oh, these are amazing. They just didn't come out. It was still a beautiful experience.
So I guess it depends where the light is, what time of the day, what height of the light, whether it's overcast or not. Did you have any overcast days or?
No, not at all. Every day was just like, we had no clouds to work with. I know we did. It was one morning we went out, it was cloudy. So let me see if I got those.
So you're getting mainly a lot of beams of light coming through the trees mixed with fog. Is that correct?
Yep.
Wow.
No, not doing a lot of beams of light. So
More like-
here's a really interesting one, and this one's not edited as either, but on a cloudy day, there's just so much. So I'm using the telephoto lens, and that compresses the scene. It brings those far trees in. I don't know if the audience can see me, but I'm like moving my hands.
Yeah, we can see on the top right.
Okay, excellent.
Yeah. Did you shave your nasal hairs today for the video?
I didn't.
You didn't? Or your ear hair? My wife hates that.
Yeah.
Ear hair.
No, I make sure
coming out.
I take care of those.
Yeah, very good.
those old man hairs,
Yeah, it's all right. We're not going too close up, but yeah. And if you were to describe the feeling of being there in one sentence, what would it be for you?
Man, that's tough. One sentence. How would I describe it? Spooky.
Spooky. Oh, one word. Okay, spooky. So, did you feel scared at any time?
No, but it just
Or it felt mythical?
It's like mythical, right? So take a look at this one right here with this pier. So this is a probably 4 or 5 image pano right here. And the fog was so thick, and with that Spanish moss just hanging down. Actually, we kept saying moody AF, moody as heck, because there's just that fog just makes it very dramatic.
It's very ethereal.
Yeah, and this mystical. Is not a lot of editing here.
Wow.
One, it's just so foggy, like trying to bring out the detail. It gets a little colory, contrasty, but
and are there many places like this you've seen in America, or not like this?
What's that? You cut out a little bit.
Are there many places like is it called Caddo Lake?
Yeah, Caddo.
Yeah, I mean, you said there might be some other ones around the place, but is this like the mecca for cypress trees with Spanish moss?
I'm not 100% sure about that. I just don't know. I'm sure Louisiana has tons of stuff like this. It just hasn't been explored like this one has.
I feel like I've seen it in a lot of movies, like speaking about African American during the horrible times of slavery.
Yeah.
I think there's one with Brad Pitt in a movie, and Benedict Cumberbatch. 7 years something. I can't remember the name, but I think they filmed it in that area. But I'll see if I can bring up a link later. But so is fog there all year round, or you don't know?
No, it's as winter comes in and the river temperature is warmer and the air is cooler, so it creates these conditions.
Yeah.
I mean, normally it's 100 degrees Fahrenheit around here, so.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, what we can do, maybe we're gonna have to wrap it up now, but and it's been really fantastic to hear the stories about Caddo Lake and your experience there, and you've come up with some real keepers for sure.